Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the CD guy, Johnny Z here. Thank you so much for tuning back into the channel, and today we're going to be talking about 10 of the best metal albums by non-metal bands. Let's get things started here at number 10. Gonna go with Look at Yourself by Uriah Heep, and though Uriah Heep are more often classified as, hard rock or progressive rock, this album's intensity and dark atmosphere definitely earns it recognition amongst metal enthusiasts, particularly for tracks like July Morning and the title track. And, Uriah Heep in the 70s were one of the hardest working bands in the scene, and this is another great addition to their catalog here, notably featuring loud driving guitar riffs by Mick Box that are both, powerful and melodic. They really laid a foundation, I'd say, of heaviness that was, still relatively rare at that time. And complementing the guitars, you have, Ken Hensley's prominent organ work, which adds a rich, sometimes ominous layer to this record that gives the music, really grand, theatrical feel that, would influence a lot of other bands like a Dream Theater in their use of organ and keyboards, in the future, right? And then vocally, David Byron delivers dramatic, high-intensity performances full of, emotional urgency and power here, contributing to the album's commanding presence. David Bowie was one of those musicians who could take any style of music and make it work, could make it into his own, and one of my favorite eras of his career is his industrial phase, starting with Outside from 1995, my number 9 here on the list. This album features a dense, distorted guitar from Reeves Gabrels, whose abrasive tones and experimental approach really echoed, a lot of the industrial and alternative metal styles of the early 90s, and tracks on here, like The Heart's Filthy Lesson and Hello Spaceboy, contain, heavy, churning riffs, aggressive rhythms, and, processed vocals that wouldn't sound out of place alongside bands like Nine Inch Nails and Ministry. Bowie, of course, famously around this time period did tour with Nine Inch Nails. Wish I could have seen that tour. Very envious of anybody who did. But, this album's production, I'd say, can best be described as cold and mechanical, right? You have some dissonant soundscapes on here that further blur genre lines, which is what Bowie could do better than anybody. It's industrial metal adjacent, I would say, but with the unique spin that only David Bowie could put on it. Kind of like David Bowie, Alice Cooper is another musical chameleon, and so it's really hard to pin him down to just one genre or style of music. I mean, you look at Alice Cooper's catalog. It started with psychedelia, right? And then kind of moved on to traditional hard rock. Then you have ballads. He did a little bit of new wave, a little bit of punk, right? Then he came back with The Nightmare Returns, and he did metal for a while, did some arena rock with Trash and Hey Stupid, right? Some commercial stuff. Did a little bit of grunge and alternative on Last Temptation, and probably my favorite era of his career, one of my favorite albums of all time, is Brutal Planet, and that's Alice's industrial phase here. This is an industrial-tinged record, kind of Alice's answer to Marilyn Manson, and easily this and Dragontown are the heaviest records Alice ever made, and just full of great material on here, like Brutal Planet, Wicked Young Man, Sanctuary, Blow Me a Kiss, Eat Some More, Pick Up the Bones, Gimme, It's the Little Things, Cold Machines. These are some of Alice's best lyrics, and, ever since this record, I've been hoping, Alice would make an album like Brutal Planet again. He sounded like he had a chip on his shoulder here, although Alice Cooper has nothing to prove to anybody, but, he sounded motivated in the studio, and, this is, in my opinion, the coolest Alice ever looked. So I hope Alice has one more Brutal Planet left in him, but this is a great record here, and Alice definitely stepping out of his comfort zone to a much heavier environment, even, talking a little bit more about, he would dabble in metal in the past, but this is definitely the heaviest stuff he'd done up to that point, and even to date, right? So Brutal Planet and Dragontown as well, two great records here by Alice that definitely showcase his metal side. Number 7, we have Self-Titled by Steppenwolf, released in 1968. This album was very much ahead of its time, and I love the use of heavy, distorted guitar riffs, powerful vocals, and really driving rhythms that emphasize intensity and aggression, through thick, crunchy guitar tones and strong rhythmic pulse as well, that really helped to define the heavy, hard-edged sound that metal would build upon in the years to follow. And this album's emphasis on gritty guitar work, energetic drumming, and forceful vocal delivery places it firmly within that early metal sound and makes it more than just a cultural influence for the band's use of the term heavy metal in the song Born to Be Wild. Number 6, how about a quick one by The Who? This album is highlighted by the band's aggressive instrumentation, marked by powerful drumming from Keith Moon and Pete Townshend's feedback-driven, distorted guitar riffs that create this raw and intense sound that really push beyond the boundaries of typical rock music at that time. So I do think this album was very much ahead of its time as well. Townshend's use of distortion, sustain, and feedback introduces a sonic heaviness and tension that really foreshadows the darker, more forceful guitar tones that would be integral to metal in the years to follow. Moving into the top 5 here with Rush's self-titled debut album from 1974. This is frequently described as, Rush's most straightforward hard rock effort, but it also firmly situates itself, within the early heavy metal landscape. The album draws heavily from the influence of bands like a Led Zeppelin or a Deep Purple, with riff-driven compositions characterized by thick, distorted guitar tones from Alex Lifeson. You've got, really heavy sonic texture here that goes beyond traditional hard rock into metal territory, and songs like Working Man, which showcase relentless, churning riffs paired with Geddy Lee's raw, intense vocal delivery, as well as John Rutsey, original drummer's powerful, underrated drumming, I would say, on this record. And unlike the more polished and experimental progressive style Rush would develop later with the addition of Neil Peart to the band, this album's sound is grounded in a direct approach that's, more intense and heavy, and the combination of blues-based riffing, robust rhythms, and a darker, more forceful mood places this debut album, alongside other metal releases around this time in the formative years of the genre, making it a sometimes overlooked entry into the formative years of not just metal, but also Rush's catalog. For my number 4, I'm going to go with In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida by Iron Butterfly. This is proto-metal at work here. The title track takes up all of side 2 of the record, and, its signature distorted guitar riff is thick, repetitive, and heavy, creating a really sonic weight that was unusual for the psychedelic rock scene at this time. And the riff-driven foundation combined with the slow, pounding rhythm section and the dense, almost hypnotic atmosphere of the track evokes a sense of power and intensity that foreshadows metal's darker, more heavier direction in the years to follow. And the song's extended instrumental passages, particularly the lengthy drum and organ solos, contribute to a monumental, immersive experience that moves away from conventional rock structures and hints at, an epic scope that metal would embrace in the years to come. And though Iron Butterfly is typically classified as psychedelic rock, the aggressive tone, distorted textures, and relentless groove of In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida had a direct impact on bands, that followed, specifically those pioneering doom metal, stoner rock, and other heavy metal subgenres as well. And the track's ability to blend psychedelic experimentation with, crushing heaviness makes it a significant milestone in the evolution from late 60s rock into a heavier, more forceful sound that would define early metal. Top 3 here, let's go with Sheer Heart Attack by Queen. Queen were never a full-on heavy metal band, but they definitely could have been at times. And Sheer Heart Attack features a mix of styles for sure, but several tracks highlight a heavier sound, with Brian May's guitar taking a more distorted and direct tone. Stone Cold Crazy is, fast-paced and aggressive. This is proto-thrash, in my opinion, on that track, right? You have Now I'm Here, which is built around a strong and steady riff, and Flick of the Wrist, which has a darker feel supported by dense instrumentation, in my opinion, the precursor to Death on Two Legs, another great heavier Queen song that would follow. And Brighton Rock includes an extended guitar solo section that showcases Brian May's use of delay effects and layered parts, and these songs contribute to a more hard-edged sound in line with the other heavier moments on the band's first, few records. And so for me, I had to put this on the list here, getting us started in the top 3, going to go with Sheer Heart Attack by Queen. Number 2, we have Led Zeppelin, their debut record here, self-titled, from 1969, and simply put, nobody sounded like Led Zeppelin when they hit the scene, with this record. And their first album blended blues rock with a heavier, more aggressive sound that was highly influential to the development of metal. I would consider Led Zeppelin to be just as influential to metal's formative years as Deep Purple or Black Sabbath. And tracks on here like Communication Breakdown and Dazed and Confused showcase loud, distorted guitars from Jimmy Page, powerful drumming from John Bonham, and some of Robert Plant's most intense vocal performances. And while the band is probably most often placed in the hard rock category, this sound, like I said before, definitely helped to define what would become heavy metal in the next few years. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have Red by King Crimson. And although King Crimson are primarily known for being founding fathers of prog rock, Red stands out for its abrasive sound and powerful guitar work, and this album's rich and layered sound was crafted through extensive overdubs of guitar and keyboard parts, and the album features complex structures and raw production style that gave it a heavy, menacing feel, and one that's not super different to, the ominous vibe that Black Sabbath's debut created as well. And the intensity of tracks on here, like the title track, Fallen Angel, One More Red Nightmare, they all are so bone-crunchingly heavy, right? Those riffs from Robert Fripp are so heavy on this record here, and they contribute to its reputation as a heavy and influential release within the broader scope of rock and metal music. And oddly enough, this is King Crimson's lowest charting album, which just goes to show that chart performance doesn't determine what makes an album great. So that wraps up this list here, taking a look at 10 heavy albums from non-metal bands. You guys can see my picks right over here, 10 of the best in my opinion. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel down below, turn on the bell for notifications so you don't miss a new upload, and let me know down in the comment section below what are your thoughts on my picks, what are some other really heavy records from non-metal bands. I want to hear from you. And until next time, it's the CD guy, Johnny Z, signing off. Take care, everybody.